Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. Founded in 2013, the EHL has become the college placement leader on the East Coast. Sit back and learn more about the next step in your junior hockey career.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, we take care of our own, as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 98 of the E-Show. On this week's episode, we start things off with another alumni who's tearing it up at the NCAA ranks. George Thurston is a junior at Southern New Hampshire University, and the 2019-20 Northeast 10 Rookie of the Year is a prime example of the EHLP to EHL to NCAA Ladder of Development in the E-Show. From there, we jump into the weekly rundown and discuss the motivation that we've provided with the recent changes that have been made to the EHL and EHLP power rankings. Inside the Ecru Fantasy Challenge, we set new picks for the next 2 weeks, and then wrap things up by highlighting some games to keep an eye on in the What to Watch For segment. I'm joined now by George Thurston, a junior forward at Southern New Hampshire University. Welcome to the podcast, George.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. Off to a hot start this year at Southern New Hampshire, which of course is a team that plays in the Northeast 10. Can you talk about what it's like for you to play at SNU and to play in the NE10?
I love the experience. It's a small conference. There's only 7 teams in it now, but I see the same teams all the time and play them 3 times a year. So the rivals get pretty heated. But yeah, no, I love it.
And let's talk about there's obviously kind of, I don't want to call it a debate, but I'm sure you got to experience it when you were going through the recruitment process. The whole idea of playing Division II versus Division III. When you were going through the process, how did that make you feel? What did you think about with that whole debate, if you will?
It was a factor for me at first. Every kid wants to play for a national championship at any level. But once my coach, Sean Walsh, kind of broke it down for me, different advantages and disadvantages. But I just love the school so much and really liked what Coach Walsh was trying to set an example for. And that's why I chose the school. So at the end of the day, it would have been nice, but it really doesn't matter. As long as you win the NE10, that's all that matters. So.
Do you still call it a national championship if you win the NE10?
Yeah, it's D2 national championship technically, but
when you came in, they actually were fresh off having won the NE10. Was there pressure, being a new player to do it all over again?
Yeah, it was different at first walking into a team where they already won, and everyone was so high on them, like in the beginning of the year, like even before the 2019 season, and not being a part of that team was a little different at first, but right when the season started, that all went away, and it was a new year, and the seniors were good about it. So
last week I had an alumni on that's a goalie now at the next level, Billy Gerard, who played for the Boston Junior Rangers. We talked about for him getting the first win, that the weight off his shoulders, what that meant for him. For you as a forward, when you scored your first goal, did you feel a similar weight come off your shoulders?
Yeah, a lot of pressure just got off my shoulders. It was a tough transition for me at first. I didn't really play that well in my first game actually, and then I remember we had a good week of practice, and my coach just kind of calmed me down, and then we went to Franklin Pierce, and I got my first couple of goals. So it was definitely a weight off my shoulders for sure. And
then the season progresses. You become the Rookie of the Year, all rookie team. Did you ever expect it?
No, I didn't expect it. I knew I was confident in myself that I thought that could happen, but I just tried to focus on one game at a time. It was just the team first, and I just tried to play the best I could in that game that I was in, and whatever happened. But yeah, it was nice, but I was confident in myself, but I didn't expect it.
When you look back and you look at your time playing junior hockey prior to SNU, what was it about the EHL that helped you feel so prepared when you got to college?
It was the coaches and the systems that they put in, not even on the ice, off the ice too. So like all the coaches, most of them played at the college level. So they try to just instill like what a college practice is like in their practices, in the weight room, and then the video and stuff like that. It's almost like a pipeline. It just translates right to college. Like I remember when I got to SNU, and obviously the time of practices were a little different, but it was like I was almost in a junior practice because my coach, Andy Hines at Valley, who one of my favorite guys in the world, but he really made a point to translate what a college practice is like into our practice, which helped me out a lot, I think.
And Valley was your last stop in your junior career, obviously, before you got to SNU. But you had other time spent with Walpole, and you actually played in the EHLP as well. It's funny to go back and look at all the players that have moved on. For young players that are in that division now, if you had a message to them, is it as simple as trust the process and be patient?
Yeah, I think it's just keep working, go day by day, and like you said, trust the process. If you put in the work every day and just take one day at a time and say, hey, I have 2-3 years in my junior career, it will end up panning out if you just work hard and do the right things.
And you get to SNU, as I mentioned earlier, you were the rookie of the year in the NE10 your first year, 20 points in 22 games. Obviously, after that, COVID hits, and you didn't get to do anything this past year. What did you do, and what did the program do with all that time off?
Yeah, it was definitely a different year. We didn't know right away if we were going to have a season or not. So a couple guys on my team, we actually got an apartment near our school and stuff, and we were prepping all the way till December, just like private skates and stuff like that, like we were going to have a season. So we just took that year, and we just figured that some guys aren't going to do the right things and are going to almost take it as a vacation, but we're going to try to make it, other than playing games, we treated it like it was a season. We skated mostly every day. We worked out mostly every day, did our schoolwork. So we just try to treat it like if we were having a season only, we didn't play games, but it was definitely a different year for sure. And I'm happy it's basically back to normal now.
Almost, right? And you got 10 points in your first 5 games. Do you credit that to the fact that you kept skating throughout this past quote unquote season?
Yeah, some of it. I think a lot of the guys on our team did the right things. Though the 2 guys I played with, Cole Stewart and Jay Cox, they all did the right things, and they helped me out a lot out there. So some of the credits is to them. But yeah, as a team, I think we all did the right thing.
When you got back into game action and you scored your first goal in this renewed season, if you will, was there a similar weight off your shoulders to when you had your first as a freshman?
Yeah, it was weird. Like going into the first game of the year, it was almost like my first game as a freshman. That's kind of how I felt. It's because it's been so long. I haven't played in a real hitting hockey game with the refs, and it was too long to remember. But yeah, it was it was a big weight off our shoulders for sure.
And obviously your coach, you mentioned him earlier, Sean Walsh, is at all kinds of events for our league constantly. We were talking this past week because you guys played post, you swept post, pair of 3-1 victories. All 6 goals were scored by EHL alumni. Does the team notice that? Does the team talk about that, or is it just me?
Yeah, no, people notice that. Walshy loves the EHL and really likes the guys that come out of there. And like I said, I think it comes back to how the coaches run the teams in the EHL. They try to just translate it to how a Division II, Division III college hockey practice would be. Yeah. So at any level, really. But I think the EHL is a great league, and it produces a lot of good hockey players for sure. What's
it like playing for Walshy?
Can
you break it down?
I love it. He knows how to get me going. He's just honest, and that's all you can ask for a coach, right? It's just if you work hard, give the player the opportunity, and he'll be honest with you whether you're playing really well or if you're not playing well at all. And I've been on both sides of that. So he's just really honest with me, and he's really improved my game defensively, 200-foot game, everything. I learned so much from him just by being here so far, and I'm really looking forward to what the future has to hold with him. So,
and as you look forward to the future and what you guys have left in this upcoming season, we kind of touched on this earlier, this whole Division II versus Division III debate. To me, it's all the same. Right. When you guys have Division III opponents though on your schedule, is there a little extra pep in your step, or is it just the same as any other game?
Yeah, we try to treat it like it's every other game, but there's certain teams that we want to that go to the national tournament, stuff like that we play that we definitely want to beat for sure. We want to have everyone see that we can play with them and that we can play with teams that go to the national tournament. So.
And a perfect example is coming up for you. You have Colby next week, but prior to that, you have 2 conference games against St. A's and Stonehill. How, as a player, to go back to what you said earlier, how do you take it one game at a time?
it's just all starts in practice. Like we do film before practice every day, and we don't even we play Stonehill on Saturday night. But the only thing we're worried about right now is St. Anselm's on Friday at our place, and it's literally this is how you got to go into it, and you just focus on at the task at hand and worry about the next game when the next game comes.
Yep. Well, we love it, and that you have a great message that can resonate with players both in the EHL and the EHLP. You're off to a great start so far this year, so keep it up, and we'll see you at a game soon.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thanks again to George Thurston for coming on the podcast this week. The junior forward at Southern New Hampshire is off to a great start this year. Already has 10 points in his first 5 games, and he plays for one of the Ecru's favorite coaches in Sean Walsh. But with that, let's bring in the Ecru now. And guys, we don't have a showcase this weekend, but we have an all-star event.
I was going to say, Neil, it's still somewhere to show up for all of us at the Ice Den Arena, home of the New Hampshire Avalanche and the Southern New Hampshire University Penn men, Sean Walsh, Neil Mulcahy. Hey, how are you? Like you said, 2 of our favorites. That's going to be fun. I'm excited for that.
It feels like a long time coming because we actually tried to have this event last year. Mm-hmm. Well, for like a 3-week span, I tried to have
the back and forth. Me and you with the text was like, it's going to happen. It's not. It might. No.
We were cautiously optimistic the entire time, but
yeah, we were.
We've worn the red and blue jerseys with the all-star team against the colleges, but now we get to see the white, and I'm calling it gray.
There's a big fight between the crew and our executive producer.
I think they're gray. Do you guys not agree?
I've seen them in person. They're literally gray. I've had them in my car. They're gray. The bag you're carrying them in
gray
is gray.
Highlights. There are gray highlights on the jersey, which means the jersey
gray.
is black.
They're gray.
I'm going with the one and only low on this one. I think they're gray.
Is this our version of the dress, whether it's gray or black?
Oh my
yes.
God.
Oh my God. That's right, Anthony.
What
Good
year
comparison.
Was that?
Is that last year? No, 2 years ago?
No,
10 years ago?
That was a while ago.
Hey, yeah, we're the old people here. So,
and before we get into the weekly rundown, I got to give a shout out to Jim McCabe because the other night he was supposed to call the Rangers game, and they were having a little bit of some issues with the internet. Could have possibly been a broken encoder from Hockey TV. So, without hesitation, he just left Breakaway, went over to the Haverhill Valley Forum where the Warriors played, got their equipment there, went back to Breakaway. Every effort that he made to try and get this game on the broadcast ultimately didn't work out, and he tweeted that video out afterwards. But man, A for effort, because he did everything that he possibly could to get it on the air.
That is the Jim McCabe that we all know and love. We love you, Jimbo. And that's job well done.
If we're going to be talking about Hockey TV efforts, I'm also going to have to give a shout out to my broadcast partner, Chris Russo. He covered me this weekend for the EHLP games against the Boston Junior Rangers when they came down to New Jersey. And on the second day, I got a call from Hockey TV saying that the video card may have been out of place. So Chris had to repair that and then do play-by-play for the game.
Wow.
Damn. All hands on deck. That is what teamwork makes the dream work, kids.
And with
Take
that,
notes for all you taking notes at home.
We'll kick over to the weekly rundown.
It's time for the Ecru's Weekly Rundown.
The E-Show Weekly Rundown is brought to you by the Junior Hockey Podcast, your home for junior hockey news, knowledge, and nonsense. Check them out at tjhpodcast.com.
What do I always say is the underlying reason as to why we do the power rankings? What are we going for with the power rankings?
What have you done for me lately?
To absolve yourself of blame when the coaches get mad at you?
Oh my God.
I was like, we could go like 45 minutes.
No,
go the rest
stir
of
the pot.
There's a lot of answers.
Stir the pot
like that.
and create motivation.
Yes.
Lauren,
buzz,
you have motivated the Boston Junior Rangers because I shouldn't say Lauren, because it was Lauren, Anthony, and Justin, but you led the charge.
It came out on me.
You led the charge. You led the charge. Since you led the charge to move the Rangers down to number 4, and Anthony and Justin backed you, they haven't given up a goal yet.
Not they've won every game, Neil. They haven't given up a goal. They were like, hold my Bauer Vapor, please, because I'm going to use the rest of these. And
Like
what?
A goal. They haven't given up a goal. Their last 4 wins with a loss in there against the Railers, as we know, their last 4 wins have all been shutouts.
I guarantee if you texted Rich, though, he would tell you, we didn't play that good. I had texted him a couple of times previously this year when they won back-to-back 3-0 games. It wasn't our best game.
I
must
don't
be nice to have a not your best game.
Speaking for yourself, Jeff, he's probably going to be listening to this podcast thinking, are you not entertained?
Oh, Rich is a huge movie quote guy. Watch out with that. Ask Chris Russo about that from last week. That'll be...
But I just bring them up because that's why we do these, right? It stirs the pot. It creates conversation. It creates a GIF war between
On
Lauren
Twitter.
and Rich. That was, I think ultimately you can say you won. If you deliver the last one, that means you win the GIF war, right?
Absolutely. And it was a solid one too. Pretty entertaining, I must say.
So when it comes to GIFs, I'm not really good at GIFs. As Justin always says, I use like one GIF and then he says, you hit your quota. It's like, for what, the month? Yeah, I guess I hit my quota. I don't know what they really mean.
I'm like the queen of gifts.
I'm looking at my phone and it's like response. I'm like, what is going on? Like, what just happened? But then, as I mentioned, Lauren got the last one in. The Rangers, I don't know, though, if they are moving up. The Railers hit the ice for just one game. That was against the Chiefs on Friday. Marshall McCallum made a hell of an effort to steal that game. Almost standing at his head for a while. The Railers, though, did win that game. So they are going to stay at 1. I know it was a close game for them, but they have to stay at 1. And I think the pattern then continues. The Avalanche took care of business in the games that they played against Seacoast and against the Wolves. They have to stay at 2. From there, can I make a push to move the Rangers back into 3? Or are we still almost split on this?
So 4 shutout wins. Did I hear that right? Don't you think they should overtake the Avalanche for number 2?
Oh
no.
Anthony's really flipped the page here.
No, I don't.
Hello.
Lauren
I will move them up to 3, but I will not move them up to 2 because a 1-0 shutout against the Wizards is not super impressive.
Wow.
To me.
You calling out my man Corey Felitti, my co-coach?
I don't know. The Wizards have been a pretty solid defensive team, so I don't think that's anything out of the ordinary.
Oh no, I'm not saying that as a slight against the Wizards, but like it's a 1-0 win. Like that's to me, especially because like the day before you beat them 3-0, so then you kind of, I don't know, it's not as exciting for me. So I don't see them going past the Avs.
The Avs, as I mentioned, won both their games. They beat the Spartans 4-1. They beat the Wolves 5-2. This is kind of the debate of, can you fault a team for who they played, right?
Right.
We normally take strength of schedule into account, though?
No, you can take that into account.
We also usually shoot the scheduler himself.
Anthony did on the second episode of the year. But I
say
don't
that
know.
all the time, though, Neil. That's a good point. You can only play the games that are on your schedule.
It's not like you can go out and say, I want to play the Railers 3 times and hope that I win 2 of them. These are the games that they had there. I think we are in agreement, though, that the Rangers are at least going up to 3 to jump the Little Flyers.
Yes.
Yeah, they have to.
Okay.
As good as PLF looks, sorry, Elo, we love you, but we'll probably keep you in the top 5.
Well, and continues. They had Little Flyers themselves had kind of a wild game with the 87s, if I do say so. There's a little bit of a sigh from Anthony. Because it just goes back to, like, I know the streak that the 87s are on, and Anthony, you can attest, they're all 1-goal games.
I know. It's hard to look at that as a 7-game losing streak.
I'm not a person to overreact, but I don't think the 87s are going to win a game this season again. No. On a more serious note.
That was a joke for everyone. That was a joke. If you couldn't see Anthony's face and you're just listening to this, that was a joke.
That was a frustrating loss because if I'm not mistaken, the 87s are up by 2 goals. They gave up a goal late in the second period. The Little Flyers are pressing the entire third period, and they finally got the tying goal, and then Philadelphia won it. in overtime. So for Philadelphia, it was a hard-fought win, a gritty, gutsy win, and the Little Flyers have been sneaking their way up the standings. They are a really good team, and they got this guy Chris Blango, who scored the overtime winner in his debut against Seacoast. He did not play against the 87s, but he's played in a couple of games so far, and he's looked really good for Philadelphia. And they got Adam Bove back after he had a brief stint in the North American Hockey League. So Philadelphia certainly deserves to stay in the top 5 because they really are a good team. And for the 87s, I think between that game and against the Avalanche, they're right there. You can tell that it's coming for them, but just not yet.
See, I don't agree with I will say the Flyers are a good team, but I don't agree with keeping them in the rankings this week. I will absolutely throw them votes because I think they are a good team to watch for, but I don't think they did enough to stay in the rankings this week.
Bomb emoji inserted here.
They beat the 87s 5-4 in overtime on Friday, and then lost to the Ducks yesterday. We're recording this Wednesday. Lost to them on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And you think that one loss kicks them all the way out?
I think so, because there's a team that nobody has talked about yet, which I'm kind of surprised by, and that's the Walpole Express, who are currently on a 4-game win streak. So I think they need to move into the rankings.
Can I just call them the Walpole were on a streak Express? Because they either win 8 games in a row or then follow it up, lose 8 games in a row, and then win 4 games in a row. They're the streakiest team.
Neil, you gotta say your patented question.
Oh,
God. The Walpole Express.
That's the better question this year.
Hey,
like honestly, who are the Seacoast Spartans and who are the Walpole Express?
I don't think they know. I was just talking to Trider at the showcase, Mr. Brett Trider, or Burt Ryder to some, and he was saying that too. He was saying, I'd like to get out to a lead for once. They finally did in their showcase game they had after that. But yeah, the Express. All right, Lauren, I see you. I've always been a Red Train fan. Everybody knows that. I grew up in Norwood. Walpole used to be our rivals, but
look at your fantasy goalies the entire season, Jeff.
Jeff, you
Tobias Falkenstead. Mason Palmer, I'm noticing a trend. Yeah,
Jeff, I was also talking to Brett Trider at the last showcase, and I was asking him about up until the game against the Little Flyers, they had always been on a streak where they've always won or lost at least 2 in a row. And he was telling me how it's sort of a testament to how tight-knit the team is, where if they're all feeling it, they're winning games. And if some of them might not be feeling it, then that'll affect the rest of the team, and they end up losing a couple of games.
Right. And maybe is that the case with the Express? Another team that has some new guys coming in. Scott Bird. Thank you for all those points last week. He's looked pretty good. That was Jack Boshard's crease, was it not? And
they had a couple P call-ups recently too, because they've been getting hit with the sickness bug. So they had a couple P call-ups in the Parker brothers, and Aiden Parker was pretty solid for them. Didn't end up on the score sheet, but he still helped them out. And his brother Aiden managed to squeeze the goal out in their win against the Lumberjacks. So bringing in some new faces does help sometimes. So I think that was definitely good to note for them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we just mentioned that about the Little Flyers with Bingo Blango and Beauvais. I mean, they've turned the page too. So, and we're not even a trade deadline yet. When's the trade deadline this year, Neil? Seems like a lot of guys have made a lot of moves though.
Not until the beginning of February. So,
a few months.
To recognize the sickness bug for a second, it's going through the league right now, it's
hitting both the trains. The red train and the blue train been getting hit by sickness. I was hearing from our good friend Trevor Blackburn. I forget how many games it was, but there was at least one game where the Railers had a pair of forwards dressed as defensemen because they had so many guys out with sickness. So they need to move some bodies around to be able to play.
Flu season.
Now,
middle of November.
I am no doctor. Okay. No doctor. But
your father is a dentist. DMD
yes, still nothing to do with my next statement. I have heard that because, as Justin types Dr. Hattrick, oh my God, I'm trying to keep my composure here. I have heard that because we wore masks all of last year, our immune systems are not quite as strong this year, which is why you're seeing such an outbreak of the flu and stuff like that. So I'm no doctor, but
Right.
So
No, it makes sense. We just talked
that.
about that. Right. No, because like being honest, you just had a cold recently. I did too. And usually colds is like a 1 week thing. We're young, we're healthy, you fight it off. And some of these colds have lingered into 2-3 weeks. I lost my voice for like 3 days at that showcase. I sounded like friggin' Macy Gray on the air. It was friggin' not fun. But yeah, now it's hitting the players, but you still got next man up, you know.
Back to the power rankings. Railers won. I think, Anthony, I see your point about what the Rangers have done and the possibility of jumping the Avalanche, but I do think you're outvoted probably on that by the rest of us. I'm just going to, Jeff and Lauren, do you agree?
Oh, yeah. The Rangers do not get to jump up to 2. I'll give them 3, but they don't deserve the jump to 2 right now.
All right. 3 it is.
Okay.
I don't know. It's hard. The Avalanche.
It's hard.
This is why we do it. I was going to say, and I was looking too at the differentials. I always like differentials, right? That's a good thing that coaches always like too. Avalanche are plus 40. Rangers are plus 33.
Yeah.
Rangers have played 20 games. Avalanche have played, 17, 19.
I think those sometimes get skewed though by 1 or 2, 3 blowouts.
Yeah.
But you don't always have to have shutouts all the time to be a good team.
Nope.
No, you don't.
Just look at the Avs. They don't have shutouts all the time to have a good team. But the Rangers just had like 3 or 4 shutouts, but like the Avs are still a good team and they haven't had a shutout recently. So
yeah,
well, for what it's worth, Justin has texted in that he agrees with Anthony. So it was another 3-2 vote. But just to recap so far, Railers 1, Avalanche 2, Rangers 3. Lauren wants the Little Flyers out. So does that mean she wants Walpole at 4?
Yes.
So you sending that beanie back to Mr. Anthony LaRusso in Philadelphia?
This is a shakeup.
Walpole at 4.
Yes.
I'm about Walpole getting in. So we give them 4. Usually when we get them in from not being ranked to ranked, that's usually the 5 spot.
Well, I mean, not really though, Jeff, because they went from not ranked to number 1 at one point this year. After the Worcester Showcase, they were not ranked. They won all 3 games. We made them number 1.
Okay, so forget that. Throw that out the window. That was what were we drinking that day? Was that one of our 9 a.m.ers?
That was because they played 2 games prior to the showcase, were 1-1, and then they won all 3 games at the showcase.
Yeah, that's the beginning of the season too, when we had like no games too, so that was harder to churn up the rankings. We're creating a little, like we said, stir.
Let's just hear Lauren out for a second, because maybe we're all going to vote this way. If Walpole is 4, who is 5?
Maryland.
After they lost to the Rough Riders?
Yes, that's exactly why, because they still look pretty steady, but they did lose to the Rough Riders. So I think that pushes them down, but I don't think that pushes them out. I think that they deserve to stay a little bit ahead of the Flyers this time, but I don't think they deserve to fall out. But I do think Express deserves the jump, because Express is undefeated the past couple of games, and the Team Maryland lost to the Rough Riders. They beat the Rough Riders, but then they ended up losing, like, I think the next day to them. So you can't unsee that.
Yeah,
comments, questions, concerns.
Team Maryland makes me play with my beard a lot.
Team Maryland, 22 games played so far. Little Flyers
16 wins.
Little Flyers have 16. Little Flyers have 6 games in hand on Maryland, which is why they're in second place, right?
Yeah.
They win all 6 of those games, and they would be tied in the standings.
Yeah. Which, like we said, with those additions,
Maryland has the better record, and they recently did beat the Flyers. So
they're also still leading the league in goals for, like, the entire league, I believe.
I think that has to do with the number of games they've played also. Though.
Yeah.
22 games is a lot of games. I don't think anybody else is above 20. I know there's teams at 20.
I mean, they've also broken the 70-goal plateau, so that's well over 3 goals a game they're averaging.
So are we in agreement? We're going to go Railers, Avalanche, Rangers, Express, Maryland?
Sure.
I wanted to keep PLF and maybe kick Maryland out.
Oh.
No offense, Coach Fosco and the boys. I don't know. I just like the brand of hockey that Philadelphia's been playing recently with, like we said, the additions, and Henson's been very good.
I like them too, but I think Maryland has done a little bit more recently to deserve to stay right there. I think we can throw some votes at PLF for sure. I think they absolutely deserve votes, but I don't.
Well, I guess the question then that would be worth asking: which loss is worse, falling to the Connecticut Rough Riders or to the Protect Junior Ducks?
Boom.
And But one thing I do want to say is that for both teams with ProTech and Connecticut, these are two teams that had really rough starts to the season, but have been gaining steam, both of them. Like the Rough Riders, they had that really long losing streak. They were winless for quite a while, but they got guys back, and now they have guys turning it on, and they've been beating teams again. ProTech Junior Ducks, they've added a couple of guys. One guy that I really like on ProTech is the former 87 Thomas Swartout. He's looked really good for ProTech, and he deserves a mention. So for Maryland and Philadelphia to lose to these two teams, maybe earlier in the season, it would be more damning to their stance on the power rankings. But now I don't think it's as big of a deal that they've lost to either team.
Do we need to have a vote? Because one of these teams is 5, the other one's receiving votes, most likely, right? So if it's between Team Maryland or PLF, I choose Maryland, and I am going to point a little bit towards the fact that they're undefeated against PLF. Who wants to go next?
I'm sticking with what I've been saying is Express 4, Maryland 5, Wildfires votes.
And that was your vote too, Neil, was Express 4?
Yes, Maryland we're voting 5? On 4 is locked in. 4 is Walpole. Right now we're voting on who's 5 and
Maryland or PLF.
Who's 5 and who's 6, I guess, technically.
I like what you just said. When it comes to, I mean, Maryland's, how many times have they been on our Who Are You segment? That's a lot. But if you've won 16 games and you've beaten the team that we're trying to discuss if you should be, who should be in the rankings, then, and you've beaten them twice, it's not just one matchup, that's 2 wins. I'm in favor of that. I'm in favor of Maryland being 5 and PLF receiving votes. You've turned.
Beat them 3 times too. Just
3 times. Oh, yeah. I thought that was
Maryland's 3-0 against PLF.
So 3 times then. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I'd say advantage PLF right now.
So that is 3 votes. But now Anthony, being the South guy, we want to just hear your vote so we know where you stand right now. Would you have picked Maryland with us?
Yeah, I think so. I think Philadelphia is getting there. I just don't think they're there just yet.
Before we get to the P, I'm going to stir the pot now by saying Maryland versus the Little Flyers will be the matchup in the South Division Finals. Just putting that out there. I know it's only November. I have probably just motivated the 87s in the Ducks locker room, so they're going to put my head on the bulletin board. But let's go over to the P.
I was just talking about the trade deadline, and Neil comes in with the South Division Finals prediction.
Well, hey, you know what, Jeff?
I love it.
When you go to our website and you click on the Frozen Finals tab, you see a countdown right there. We're just over 130 days away from Providence. As I always say,
my man, I'm applauding you.
As I always say, and Vicky just totally agrees, it's coming up very soon. Not really. It's still over 130 days away, but it's coming up very soon. I always say things are very soon, but they're not actually that soon. But we're going to go to the EHLP now. And it actually was, I guess you can call it a rarity this past week, because the Railers actually lost a game, which has only happened twice all year. But they only had 14 skaters in that game. So to me, to win as shorthanded as they were against Walpole the first night, and then come back and only lose to the Avalanche by a goal. Yes, it's a split weekend. They're still the top team in the EHLP.
But they're at double-digit goals against now. They were at single digits for so long. Now they got 13 whole goals this season, Neil. I mean, come on.
What is going on with the defense for the Railers Junior Hockey Club? My goodness.
Defensive goaltending.
All these goals.
Come on, Lapierre. Let's go, buddy.
Do you guys agree, though, that they should stay at number 1?
Yes. Skating with 14, because remember, anyone that wants to do quick math, usually it's 12 forwards, 16, an extra skater. So they were 5 men down.
Yes.
Where was this logic when the 87's P team were losing games and they had like half their bench out? Come on, guys.
Here we go. Only difference, Anthony, is this was 1 game for the Railers. That's been the entire season for the 87's P team.
Yeah.
All right, Coach Connell.
So there's a consistency factor to that, right? But hey, you know what? The Seahawks have won 5 straight. We had them at 2. we've talked a lot about the EHLP and in particular the East Division being this gauntlet, if you will. Look up at the North. Valley's won 3 straight. Avalanche have won 2 straight. Vermont's won 3 straight. Maybe it's not as clear cut that the East is this top division. And remember, there's an at-large that's going to be coming in the EHLP to make. I'm bringing up the finals again. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but there's an at-large coming at some point. So I'm keeping Railers at 1. What's the group think about everyone else?
I'm okay with that.
Seahawks at 2. Seahawks, I'm excited to see them tomorrow. We'll see Mike Richards, Alex Radcliffe, Bill Zanaboni at Tony Kent Arena, filling in for Jim McCabe.
First time ever.
First time ever.
The Seahawks game will not be called by Jim McCabe.
Yep, filling in. Jim had some personal matters to deal with, so I'm happy to get the call from the bullpen, if you will. I know this is hockey, not baseball, but call from the locker room, I guess. I mean, a little different, but yeah, I mean, that Seahawks P team has been unbelievable all year. Talked about Kevin Wright, the P goalie, who's 15, 16, 15
16,
years
16.
old? 16, sorry.
Got to be 16 to play
baby. Absolute baby, but a smart kid. Parents coming up to take him back to school, and that's awesome. He's a smart kid. Probably see him in a NESCAC school maybe in the future.
So they won
NESCAC a little bit.
Yeah, they won 4-2 against the Wolves on Saturday. That was their only game. So Railers stay 1, Seahawks stay 2. Lumberjacks, as I mentioned, are riding a 3-game winning streak themselves. But this is where it kind of gets interesting. They only had 1 game this past week. They beat Walpole in a 7-6 shootout barn burner that Justin pointed out must have gone. He types here 54 round shootout. It was a little bit less than that. I think it was like I think it was honestly like 14 rounds. Like I can't even exaggerate that. But it's interesting because we made our power rankings last week and we moved the Rangers in to number 4, and on that same day they got beat up by the Avalanche 5-2. The Avalanche have not.
Avalanche P looks good.
Avalanche P have not lost a game in regulation since the Worcester Showcase.
7-3 in the last 10.
So as Vinny texts me and says, we can't go into the power rankings. We're still in the league, right? Did you forget about us?
Oh,
like they haven't lost a game in regulation since the Worcester Showcase.
Yeah, so they got to go to 3. I would say that's my vote.
And the Rangers are a hot team. Also, they lost, as I mentioned, they lost that game to the Avalanche when we dropped this podcast last week. But then they went and rebounded down in New Jersey with a 6-2 win and a 4-0 win.
Yep. Also, with the Boston Junior Rangers, they got a pretty good player back in Anthony Viola. He had 45 points for the P team last season. Played a couple games in New England. Didn't really get much of a shot there. He only had 6 games played, so he went back down back up to Boston, and he looked really good that weekend. So I think the Junior Rangers get a big addition back to their team, and that should really help them in the long run.
In 0-2 forward, and this is no shot by any means, but I think what players are starting to realize when they get their first taste of the next level is there is a jump between the EHL and EHLP. And as I say when I'm on the road for the league all the time, there's a value in mastering where you're at. So to me right now, between the Lumberjacks, Rangers, and Avalanche, 2 of them are inside the top 4, and one of them is out receiving votes. And it's tough because to me, the team that I think would be out would be the Lumberjacks. And they only had 1 game this past week and they won it.
Valley Virginia Warriors too. Brett Heigl's P team.
Did you see
They're in the North Division now.
Did you see the game winner? Game winner.
No.
It's the number 1 play. I mean, we don't
3rd time this year for that kid. Top
we don't
play.
have
that was the
award.
McAllister Award. That's right. I did see that. That's right.
We don't have an award for this, but I don't think we've ever had someone get the top play more than once before, and he's got it 3 times.
We might have to create that.
The
top play award. That'd be a fun banquet award.
He decided, mid overtime to just Michigan the game winner.
No biggie.
Great.
So I guess honestly, we're gonna pause this for a second. Of the 3 number 1 plays that he's had, which one is the best? Because they've been really good.
I mean, a game winner in overtime, Michigan move. It is 3-on-3, so I guess there's a little more space out there.
But
It's
at
not
the
as
same
clogged.
time, that's amazing. Like
That
to pull
is-
that off is
yeah.
just so good. Like
That
doesn't matter
takes some
what level it is,
cojones.
if you can pull that off, so good. And I heard from the other day too. I was
Yep.
like, because I was asking about it, I was like, what game was that in? Because I had to look it up, and then he's like, oh yeah, he's like, I've been trying to practice that for a while, so it felt really good to finally get it done. And I was like, the fact that you said that you've been practicing that is just ridiculous in itself, and
Like,
just to even see you
ew.
pull it off, wow.
Anthony's rewatching.
Did you just
again. I
watch
can see his
it?
face. Ew.
Yes.
Yeah, it was nasty. I remember that. That was.
Are you making a case though? Warriors went down and swept the Little Flyers this past weekend. Are you saying that they should be part of this group that I
Yes.
just mentioned
Yeah,
to be at 3 or 4? Well, we can only pick 2.
I know.
so
Just trying to make it a
Lumberjacks,
little harder.
Lumberjacks, Rangers, Avalanche, Warriors. Who's in? Who's out?
Ooh.
To me, I go Avalanche 3,
Avalanche has to be in.
Rangers 4, receiving votes, Lumberjacks and Warriors.
Yeah, that's fine.
That sounds good. Records wise, what have you done for me lately? Yeah, they're
Rangers
all about the
recently
same
beat
lot.
the Warriors in a shootout at the Haverhill Showcase. Feels like forever ago. It was only 2 weeks ago.
Wow, yeah, it does. And if we're gonna do that with the EHL power rankings, we have to do it with the EHLP. Matching head-to-head matchups definitely comes into play for power rankings.
So to recap, we have Railers at 1, Seahawks at 2, Avalanche at 3, Rangers at 4, receiving votes, Lumberjacks and Warriors, and we'll probably reshuffle this thing all over again next week.
We had quite a few P call-ups recently, which I thought was kind of fun. And I was hearing about these, like both in watching some of these games at the showcase and from like hearing some of the players tell me about it too, which is always fun. And the Express, who we've been talking about, who are making it back in the power rankings, they took a couple guys. They've been dealing with some sickness recently. So they pulled up a couple guys in the Parker brothers, Aiden and Phillip, both a defenseman and a forward. Aiden didn't get on the score sheet for the game against the Lumberjacks, but he in the P has 11 points over 14 games and only 23 penalty minutes. So likes to hang out in the box a little bit, but not as much as his brother. His brother has 25 points in 12 games. So that's almost like that's about 2 points per game. That's pretty solid, but he has about 30 penalty minutes. So he's definitely a bit of a rough guy out there. And he actually managed to score a goal in the EHL game he got called up for versus the Lumberjacks. And the Railers also have called up guys recently. One of the most notable ones would be Xavier Lapierre. He's 6-1 at the EHLP level with a .963 save percentage, only allowing 6 goals all season for them. And he's 2-0 currently at the EHL level with a .949 save percentage, only allowing 2 goals so far for them. And the Seahawks have a full house of guys that they've also been calling up. They have Ethan Decker, 12 points in 16 games at the EHLP level. He hasn't gotten any points yet in the E, but he's been called up, getting some good points for the P, so we got recognized to get pulled up for that. Max Fleckenstein also has 9 points in 8 games for the EHLP. Hasn't scored any yet for the EHL, but he's managed to get up there for 2 games. Liam Chassé, their goalie, has a .931 save percentage in the EHL so far with a loss.
He's a real flashy dresser too.
Yeah,
absolutely. His gold jacket in Walpole was great.
Unbelievable.
He has a .934 save percentage in the P with 5 wins and 1 loss. And Dylan, I believe it's Zabo, has 13 points in 14 games for the P. He hasn't found the score sheet yet in 4 games for the EHL, but clearly his status in the P got him that call up for those games. And to finish it off, Mr. McAllister Ward that we've been talking about for Valley, he got called up at one of the showcase games that Jeff and I were happy to be on the call for. He has 21 points in 17 games in the P. 3 of those are top plays. And he has 1 point in that one game he had so far with EHL. So he definitely earned that call up, and he made a bit of a name for himself in that game. He made it onto the score sheet, so that's always fun. So we've had quite a few notable P call ups, which is always fun to see.
That's awesome.
Jeff is so excited to call his first Seahawks games and say Fleckenstein and Chassé and Zabo.
Zabo. I did get to call some Seahawks E games
Yes.
at the showcase with Pompacelli. They get some good ones too.
Great name.
Pompacelli.
Maybe
Campbell.
that's the team that has the best
It's Pidge.
name.
It's not Piggy. It's Pidge. We learned that
Pidge.
at the Walpole showcase. It's Pidge, even though it looks like Piggy.
Okay. And on that note, we've had a lot of shuffling at the power rankings we just announced there, as well as in the Ecru Fantasy Challenge standings. So let's get to fantasy.
It's time for the Ecru Fantasy Challenge.
And the Ecru Fantasy Challenge is presented by BioSteel, the sports drink of the EHO. Use the promo code ESHOW, that's ESHOW, for 25% off when you check out at biosteel.com.
So I go in after each game happens just so I don't fall too far behind, and I plug in what took place for fantasy right away. And I mix the order. I readjust the order based off what happened. This week that just took place, at one point, Anthony was in first place overall. At one point, Lauren was in first place overall. And I'm talking about the whole year, too, not just the week. And at one point, I was in first place overall. The overall standings before we get to the actual week, Lauren is in first, then me, then Jeff, then Anthony, which just shows you how fast this thing can flip.
I was never in first this week. Nah, that sucks.
No, well, the overall.
I know the overall.
I
haven't been there yet. I'm getting close.
When you get into first, you're going to probably make a petition to just end the fantasy season right there and call it good.
Done.
So,
See ya. Sorry. Canceled. Done.
But, in terms of our picks, it really was we all had a pretty solid week, honestly. We all had over 25 points. Anthony got to pick first because he had 28 total points. Cooper Board started off right away, a pair of goals, a pair of assists, a game winner. That was kind of his show against the Seahawks in that 5-1 win. We had talked a little bit last week when Kieran Chung got picked by Anthony, a very young 0-4 defenseman, but he got him a goal and 3 assists. Unfortunately for Anthony, the Railers and Chiefs moved one of their games, and Kulhanik didn't play in the game they actually did play. So he got a little bit of what I got last week with no starts at all for the goaltender. And then Justin Gloff got him a pair of goals, including one on the power play. So really still a solid week at 28 points. You add a goalie start, maybe even a win in there, and the whole thing flips.
I'm glad everyone else is going through the trials and tribulations, though. See, the standings are evening out, Commissioner and Rookie of the Year, Lauren.
And yeah, Anthony, the standings are evening out when you put the points in and don't miss out on my goalie assist.
Oh, hey, I missed a Boschert goal from a couple of weeks ago. That was on our.
That was very entertaining. I was at that game, and I'm like, wow, he scored when he's not even playing. Oh, but my goalie actually did get an assist because he did play.
It was a short-handed goalie assist. While he got a bonus shutout victory against the top 5 team.
And it was part of one of the top plays because it was a assist on Tyler Penry's 200-foot empty net goal.
That is a gold star. Anthony, your picks for this week? Actually, just so everyone knows, it is a double week too because of
it is.
Teams are kind of hitting the holiday break here, except for the Express and Seahawks who are playing on Thanksgiving for the second straight year. There's just not a lot of games that take place between now and the end of the calendar month. So this is a double week. So we're going to go from the 18th, the day this podcast drops, to December 3rd. So 2 weeks worth of fantasy picks with Anthony starting first.
Okay. Starting up for forward. And also this week, mostly safe picks. I do have one pick that is a little bit off the board, but I'll get to that.
Fine, Anthony.
Just a minute. For forward, I have to go with Colin Callanan.
Smart. Safe and smart.
Scores
safe and smart
in the league. Applecore lost their last game 7-4 to Team Maryland, but he picked up a goal and an assist. So that's a fairly obvious pick for me. For defense, I have to go to the Valley Junior Warriors. They hosted the last showcase. Ryan McGrath said, are you guys going to talk about the Valley Junior Warriors? Well, you know what, Mr. McGrath, I will. And I will talk about your defenseman, Daniel Demchuk. Demchuk has points in his last 2 games, so he's been pretty good from the Valley blue line. And I'm going to pick him as my defenseman. For goalie, this is another obvious choice, Nathan Miller. The Boston Junior Rangers have been shutting out teams like it's nobody's business. Nathan Miller has 4 shutouts out of his 8 games that he's played. Perfect 8-0 record. Have to go with him. And for my utility pick, this one I'm going a little off the board. He recently joined the Avalanche, and that is Cole Paradis.
Yep.
In 5 games, he has 5 points, 3 goals, 2 assists, including a point in a game against the 87s. And watching him play, when I called that game, he was all over the place. He is quick on his feet. He can move the puck well, very poised with the puck, doesn't panic with it. And he's a player who I think can rack up some points as he plays more games in the EHL this year. So he's going to be my utility pick.
He stood out a lot in the game that me and Lauren called, the last game of the Haverhill Showcase against the Warriors. He is very fast. He actually came over from the Connecticut Junior Rangers. Chris was really excited to get him in the organization, and instant impact for Cole Paradis. So good pick, Anthony.
He was a great interview as well. I talked to him after his game, and he was a very sweet kid, had nothing but good things to say about the team, especially since he was new, and I'm excited to see what else he does.
We love that. We love when they play well on the ice and then they can speak well with their interviews after. That is like beautiful thing.
Makes my job so much easier.
It does.
I want to tell a story about an interview I had, but after we finish the fantasy.
Well, I will say it's not through the third. You told us it's the 18th to the 1st.
Yes.
Did I say the
December
third?
1st.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
18th.
I was going to say, we're all going to get screwed with these picks if we have to go
Wednesday.
Because we all pick through the 1st.
So 2 Wednesdays.
As Justin knows, I tell myself one thing specific because I just cheat to make sure I can win.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyways, Anthony brought up Nathan Miller. He had the shutout against the Chiefs earlier today. That was his 9th all-time shutout. So he's climbing up that all-time record books. He's at number 4 overall right now. The names in front of him: Travis Pelkey with 11, Sam Caney with 12, Brendan Brawley with 13. So he's creeping up on the top of the shutout chart. And then overall his wins, he's at 35 now. So with his next win, he'll tie for 10th all time with Mac Vale. Speaking of giants, that kid was 6'6". So he'll tie him to get in there into the top 10. And I will also say this: part of me still thinks Chris Jackson is better. But anyways, moving on, because
he'll drop that one earlier.
Yes, Chris Jackson is legit, man. He was my pick last week. We're gonna get to that. He's close. They have this 2-headed monster. It's insane, dude. And then for the next set of picks, it is actually my picks, which were highlighted by Chris Jackson this past week. He was in net for both of those shutout victories against the East Coast Wizards. I think one thing that's a testament to how good the Rangers are is in 2 shutout wins, back-to-back games. I'm going to say the word only. He only had to make 51 saves, which I know sounds like it's like I'm making a shot, if you will, but it's not as many as some guys have had to make throughout their time. Trey Miller, my pick this week, in that win against the Little Flyers, made 51 saves. So
that's just a day at the office for Jackson Bernard. It's just
exactly.
Hey, how are you? 50 saves? What is there to talk about?
So as I was saying with Jackson, 22.2 points. The rest of my guys combined for 12 points from there. So was hoping for a little bit more, but I'll take the 12 points and I'll roll with it, which leads me into my picks for this double week. And just to clarify, to make sure everyone knows, it's the 18th through the 1st. My first pick that I want to go with at forward is Graeme Hassan, recently committed to New England College to play both hockey and golf. I have golf with him. He is a hell of a player, and he already said probably too cold for us to golf right now, but when I come back up next fall, when I'm in college, we'll golf then. He's in my state, right? He's in New Hampshire. So
Atkinson Country Club.
On D, I'm going with a player that is on my all-star team, if you will, this week, Team White, Parker James. I mentioned Trey Miller before, a 51 save performance against the Little Flyers, hoping he gets both starts. I kind of talked to Cherry Watt briefly, hoping he gets both starts in the home and home series they have with the New York Apple Corps. And as we go through my picks and then Jeff's and then Lauren's, we each have a Seahawk forward from their top line. And I'll start that top line with their captain, Austin Pick, who I have had once before this year, so hoping for big things from him. And then we shift over to Jeff, who managed to surpass me in the last day because you got 9 points from Jack Slifke. After stat changes, because there were plenty from that Rough Riders Ducks game. When the night ended, Jeff was very frustrated because Jeff had 0 points. All the while, Ryan Bro knew what he did for Jeff in that game. So when the stat changes came through, there were 8 fantasy points for you there. Wilhelm Nelson got you 3 fantasy points. Scott Bird won you one of the games against Vermont this past weekend, and then got you the win against the Rangers on the streaky number 4 Walpole Express. And you love Red Train goalies. So overall, you had 36.8 points this week. So what are your next set of picks look like?
Well, Commissioner Raven, funny you should say about the Walpole Express. A shout out to Mr. Justin Squitieri. I am recording this inside the Rodman Arena, home of the Walpole Express. So because of that, I had to pick 2 Express on my team this week. That's not the only reason. It's because they play 5 games,
including Thanksgiving.
Including Thanksgiving. So we are going to start things off with Mr. Josh Grund. Come on down to Team Jefferson. And Grund, with 21 points in 19 games, has 8 points on the power play now, 7 power play assists, 1 power play goal, even as a shorty too. So, and 2 game winners. So we're hoping for big things out of Josh Grund. And I'm kind of flipping and flopping. We're going to stay with the Express. Scott Bird is coming back for another week.
Back to back.
Play 5 games.
Back, Jeff.
Back to back. Big Bird. That doesn't sound like a bird, but yeah, so I'm a big Express goaltender. I have a storied career of picking Tobias Falkenstead, Mason Palmer. Now Scott Bird's become a favorite of mine. Again, playing the numbers. They played 5 games, hoping he could play 3. Jack Boshert's in the All-Star game this week. So maybe, Coach Holmstrom gives Bird the 3, Bosher gets 2. Just saying, Josh, just saying. Not that you have to use my, of course you wouldn't use my asking for your coaching strategies, but just asking, Andrew Kimball, come on down. He was picked by Neil last week. 10 points in 6 games for him, 3 goals, 7 assists. And 6 of those points are on the power play. 2 power play goals, 4 power play assists. Also has 2 game winners. So we'll see Andrew tomorrow for the Seahawks Valley Junior Warriors game that we previewed earlier. I'm going to be filling in for Jim McCabe and happy to be at Tony Kent Arena for both of those. And lastly, but not least, Dominic Metro. He's been picked by a few of you peeps this year. I haven't picked him yet, so I'll see him tomorrow too. Metro, 9 points, 14 games. Kind of an easy chalk pick, if you will. And he has a power play goal and 2 power play assists. And that's it. That's who I have this week.
Jeff jumped on the last day of the fantasy this week. So did Lauren. Lucas Baxter had the game-winning goal in that game against Maryland, which I was going to ask this. He scored it on John Werber. So were you kind of torn when that took place?
That's that.
Oh, I hate when two of my players are playing together. It stresses me out. Unless they're teammates, I don't like it.
But
we always hate that in our NHL fantasy too. We're like, oh, goal. Oh, Anderson's in that.
They each got you over or 8. Baxley, I should say, had 18 points even. Werber had 18.6. Which made up for Devine, who didn't get you anything, and Malzani got you 2. So just 2 guys alone. This is what gets so frustrating about fantasy, Jeff and Anthony. 2 guys alone beat all of our teams. So who are you going to go with for our double week here to end November, Lauren?
I'm picking one familiar face, I believe, to Timo. I believe I've picked him once before. I'm starting off with Mr. Billy Hartnett up front on forward. He is a solid guy. He's 6'3", 190. He started out as a point per game guy. He hit a bit of a slump for a while, and then he got injured and missed one of the games at the showcase at the end of the showcase weekend. But he's a pretty solid dude and definitely someone you want on your team. He's the captain for the Valley Junior Warriors, and rightfully so. He definitely is he's a good leader and good for them. And for my defenseman, I'm picking Julius Cavandel, another one of my all-star teammates this weekend. I'm excited to see him and see what he can do for me. The New England Wolves have been talked about a little bit on the podcast this season, so I'm excited to see what he'll do for me. And in net, I'm picking Mr. Ty Franchi, one of the few people that makes me look absolutely small in an interview. That kid is very, very tall. He's very good in net, so I'm excited to hopefully get some good performances out of him. I got to watch him at the showcase and interview him, and he's a pretty cool guy, and it's cool to see him kind of hold it down in a shutout, especially when there's a fire alarm going on. That was probably one of the best answers so far to one of my interview questions. I said, what was going through your head in that shutout? Well, for the first 5 minutes, the fire alarm was. Oh, well, yeah, it was going through our heads for a lot of us. So yeah, I know what you mean. Mm-hmm. And to finish it off, my utility pick is another one of my all-star teammates, Mr. Ryan Pompacelli. I got to pull him before one of his games. He was very great, and he was told me nothing but good things about his team. He said they're quite a speedy team, and looking at his points, that I guess speed is paying off for them. He's been pretty hot on the score sheet for them, so I'm excited to pull him over to my team and see what he can do for me these next 2 weeks.
So as I was saying, I have Austin Pick, Jeff has Andrew Kimball, and Lauren has Ryan Pompacelli. That is the Seahawks top line. No offense, guys, but if Pick wants to score assisted by both defensemen that are on the ice with him, I won't be. I'll take it without a doubt. So, but Therese,
I am going to say this right now, though. Andrew Kimball was almost going to get a hat trick the other day at that showcase game and passed it to Austin Pick for an empty netter. So you'll be seeing me go, yeah, and then Neil going, oh, sit down, sir. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, no. But I'll get an assist and you get a goal. Whatever. Points are points.
But to recap the overall standings, as Jeff has mentioned, it's getting very tight once again. Lauren is at 238.4. I'm at 227.4. Jeff is at an even 218, and Anthony is at 215.2. As I mentioned here a few times, we have a number of games that are taking place this weekend. We're still trying to work through the bonus of what we'll get if our teams win the All-Star Classic. But with that, let's get to what to watch for.
Before we wrap things up, here's what to watch for this week in the E-Show.
What to Watch For is presented by Hockey TV, the official streaming platform for your EHL and EHLP action through the 2021-2022 season.
And of course, the easy answer for what to watch for all of us
All-Star games
will be the All-Star games on Sunday and Monday.
Sure.
But there are a few other games also between now and then. And the last time Walpole faced the Boston Junior Rangers was our first fire alarm. A few that we've had this year. And that was the game that ultimately Victor Malzahn had the game winner in overtime for the Rangers. But we've covered it. Walpole is a different team right now from when they lost that game. Streak-wise in particular, they were in the middle of a losing streak at that time. Now they're in the middle of a winning streak. And I know that the Express do play the Avalanche Friday, but I'm looking forward to that game Saturday night. It's the final game before the All-Star Classic starts on Sunday.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting this weekend, though, because there's a couple of games, I think, Friday and Saturday. So, some of these guys are literally going to be playing games and then having to haul right down to Hooksett and get to the All-Star game. So that'll be interesting to see how they fare. But hopefully no bus legs, or I guess this time probably car legs, road trips, probably some of them with some of their teammates. So that'll be interesting to see how they fare with that.
Any other games that you guys have circled for Thursday, Friday, or Saturday? Or you could pick next Tuesday. We do have a couple of games on Tuesday. We'll record another podcast next Wednesday, right before Thanksgiving. But there are 6 games Friday, and to Lauren's point, there's 3 games Saturday. So 6 teams, if you will be playing Saturday, and then their All-Stars will be playing on Sunday and Monday. So for a lot of these guys, they can't wait to get to Thanksgiving.
Yeah, a couple of my guys have games on Saturday, and then we have the first game on Sunday morning. So that'll be interesting. Thank you.
Do I need to, is that thank you, like Neil, end the podcast and blame the scheduler again?
We've done that so many times. No, don't do that. I mean, I just feel like you just have to watch. Yeah, I mean, I think the Seahawks Warriors, and I'm going to call tomorrow selfishly, that's 2 teams. We said the Beasts from the East. Those 2 teams have dipped off a little bit. Both 2-8 in their last 10, but both trying to make their move up the standings. Seahawks have a really busy week. They're going to play the Express twice. One of those being on Thanksgiving Day. So, I mean, this is your time, right? A lot of teams aren't playing as many games. So see if Bill Zanaboni Seahawks can move up the standings. Ryan McGrath's Warriors can move up the standings. And talked about 1-goal losses for the 87s. Warriors have piles of 1-goal losses. And unfortunately, that's the running joke when I call their games, because I think they're like 0-6 now since I've been working for them, for Coach McGrath and Coach Clougherty. And I apologize to them on the air as I apologize to them in the building. They did not say it's me, but Ryan always jokes and says, Jefferson, you're fired after every game.
Is the EHL game first?
Jinx.
Yes. Is the EHL game first or the EHLP game? Because EHLP could be a great game also. We were just talking for a while about Valley maybe coming in.
I'm lucky.
So what game do you want to watch, Anthony?
I guess the obvious answer is the 87s because
that's a good one though. They got to shake off the streak.
Well, they have the rematch against the Little Flyers.
Yep.
Same time, same place, same team, with the Little Flyers on the road, 12 o'clock puck drop on Friday, and essentially a mulligan from the week before. where they had that 2-goal lead. They ended up losing in overtime. This time, can the 87s get over that hump and break the losing streak? We'll find out this Friday.
And one P game to watch, Railers versus Rangers too. I wrote about this in the Stars of the Week this week. Rangers are one of the hotter teams in the EHLP, and the Railers have been hot literally all season long. So
they haven't not been hot.
Exactly. So we do also have the All-Star Classic this weekend. Each of us has a vested interest in the All-Star Classic, as I mentioned before, helping to pick these.
I'm excited to hang out on the bench. I'm so excited.
Please go check out the awesome All-Star page that Justin Squitieri, our executive producer, made. It is dynamite. Thank you, Justin, for doing that. That is awesome. There's things I wanted to say, expletives that it's the beep, fill it in. We're all general managers, thanks.
Yeah, seriously.
Title.
We're going to be doing the
Good
live
title.
scoring throughout the event. It's the first time we ever had this event. A number of parents have already reached out saying they're excited to come up. Obviously, helping their kids get up here, staying in the hotel, staying overnight. Yes, we do have some games that take place during Thanksgiving week, very minimal though, if you will. So to me, it's kind of a nice little icing on the cake right before we break shortly for the holidays. So it's going to be a fun weekend. Jeff will be calling the games with Tyler at the All-Star Classic. Yeah. You're going to see Anthony tweeting all kinds of videos out the entire time. Lauren will be doing some interviews during the game. Before the game, during the game, and after the game. It's the first ever EHL All-Star Classic. You watch it all live on Hockey TV. And we'll see you guys this weekend.
See you at the ice tent.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.